This week is a big week of foreshadowing. This week the moon aspects planets that later in the month will aspect each other. I made a Mercury retrograde video. It's the one that was uploaded before this one. I will link it above and below. Also, my 2024 calendar should be available soon. You can pre-order that at voyage.earth. It's the most beautiful astrology calendar you can buy. I made it for myself to use because there wasn't anything out there for my wall that looked the way I wanted it to look. So this is last year's. And this year I changed this bottom section, which is why I still haven't sent it to the printer. Because the bottom section for the past 2 years has had it explains like what the glyphs mean for the planets and the signs. And I feel like if you don't know what the glyphs mean, you can look them up on the internet and print yourself a cheat sheet and put it next to the calendar, because I made this calendar for me, something that I wanted to use. And now I realized I want the degrees of the major aspects listed on the calendar, as well as the degrees of the lunations. So pre-order it now at voyage.earth and sign up for my emails. And those are all my announcements. So this week is like foreshadowing. And Monday starts with the moon in Sagittarius. So if you wake up super early on Monday, you might be ready to go and you might hit a wall, or you might hit a tremendous amount of responsibility. But after that, it should be, I'm hesitant to say smooth sailing, although Monday is perhaps the best day, and if you can take any day for yourself, maybe Monday's good. You can put your ear to the ground and listen for things that might happen later this month. Either that or just take this day to stay out of trouble. Because whatever trouble you get into on Monday, it's going to have maybe something to deal with what happens around the end of December. Mercury sextiles Venus on Monday, which is pleasurable, sort of. We have cold, calculating fact checker making some sort of nice contact with Venus in the first phase of Scorpio. So Venus really wanting that connection. I think of, I've never seen this movie in my life. 50 Shades of Grey, there's a scene where she's like signing a contract with a guy to be his sexy, forbidden partner. And this is kind of like that, except the contract will not be upheld, although Mercury is about to be going backwards and making contact with all the planets that it has been aspecting recently. Mercury will not make another aspect with Venus for a little while. And the moon is balsamic, meaning it's waning down to nothingness, and it's in the sign of the upcoming dark moon the next day. So this Mercury-Venus contact is sweet, but can be hidden under the radar. Or Mercury sextile Venus on Monday, you could write, you know those letters where you write a letter, but you don't send it? This could be that. You write a love letter that you don't send. Something like that. Anyway, not awkward at all. Also, the moon conjoins Mars in Sagittarius in the wee hours of Monday, Tuesday, before the dark moon. So Monday night is like the darkest waning moon. Tuesday night, the moon will be waxing again in North America, because the dark moon takes place in the afternoon / evening. Anyway, what I'm getting at with the moon conjoining Mars and its balsamic off of this Mercury sextile, Mars ruled Venus, that could be sexy, but subtle. Or whatever damage is done, you get away with it. I recently was reminded of the thing that Andy Warhol said, which the version I heard, I don't know if this is exactly how he said it, but I like this version of it. Art is getting away with it. So Tuesday we have the dark moon, and the moon also squares Neptune, which is a little bit of that foreshadowing that I mentioned because of Mercury's many aspects square aspects with Neptune during this retrograde, which watch my Mercury retrograde video to get more information on that. So the moon goes into darkness, and as it emerges, it pings Neptune, producing an event in whatever that Mercury-Neptune story is. With the moon squaring Neptune, we also have the sun squaring Neptune later in the week. So there is kind of like a low energy, what have you gotten yourself into kind of a thing. Unless it's like visionary art or something, you may find yourself hoisted by your own petard. Am I saying that right? But this dark moon is, on that note, the dark moon on Tuesday, so heading into it on Monday, it's a good time to maybe anticipate what regrets about what you've gotten yourself into or what you've committed yourself to in the areas of life signified by Pisces and Sagittarius. And detach yourself from that. You may have lashed yourself to the mast of some crazy project, and maybe during this dark moon it's an opportunity to release some of those tendrils, commitments, or things that you're about to commit to. Mercury stationing on Wednesday, Mercury's day, that's bound to be a doozy. For me, I'm in a Mercury ruled year. So it's like we get speak now or forever hold your peace. Or don't speak. Just don't do it. Don't speak now. It's okay to hold your peace. Or something. You get like on a movie set, this is good for Neptune stuff, on a movie set and moon stuff. On a movie set, you get last looks where the makeup person and the hair person and the director and everybody, tell me if I'm wrong about exactly what this means. You get last looks. So this is last looks before heading into the real ass Mercury retrograde. So Wednesday is busy. Wednesday begins a reassessment of stuff especially that happened last week, but also kind of since November 22nd. You may have begun to suss out, get a whiff of these themes starting November 9th. November 22nd, Mercury entered the degrees that it's going to retrograde back through. So we'll start to backtrack or revoke or reassess things. And sometimes, especially with Sagittarius fire stuff coming later, that you might have gotten an insight into Monday, Tuesday. It's a fire sign, so it's wants to be impulsive sometimes. And I know for me, sometimes Mercury retrograde themes involve me just quitting something, being like, that was a terrible idea, and then me being wrong about it. So there might be an element of perseverance required throughout this. Like, if you're challenged, if you have to reassess things, if a look at the cold hard facts and the math from last week is now being questioned, it doesn't mean that it's going to be revoked, and it doesn't mean that you were wrong or anybody was wrong. Maybe it could, however, but it's okay to be wrong about stuff. It's okay to reassess stuff, and the larger trajectory can still take place. I didn't say that right. Sometimes the cascade of failures that Mercury retrograde is known for can be produced by overcorrecting, trying too hard to fix something, or trying too hard to cling to an outcome. During this time, it's good to just understand that the way may not be apparent. You might need to let go of some control. If something, I've said before that I think of sometimes if I drop my phone or something, I imagine that's Hermes smacking my phone out of my hand. And I leave my phone out of my hand if that's possible. And I try to do something else. sometimes. So I think that's a good template to use for throughout the Mercury retrograde. Keep your head on. So on Wednesday, we have Mercury stationing retrograde in Capricorn, and we also have the moon entering Capricorn. So it's going to make all those aspects that Mercury is about to make again, and it's going to conjoin Mercury at the end of the day. So maybe Wednesday is a good day for journaling about how there are no paths in this land, and you must make your way without the benefit of a trail blazed by others. The moon trines Venus on Wednesday evening also before it conjoins Mercury, so there's a boost of optimism headed into this retrograde, a little one. Something about Wednesday might be lucky, but turn to dust later, or not. It might be more complicated than you think, but the moon is still very new. It's just coming out of the dark moon phase. So this moon trine Jupiter, moon in detriment trine Jupiter, isn't going to have maybe a ton of juice, but it's still nice. If you can have a quiet night in on Wednesday, stay out of trouble. Don't put your life on hold. Also in the wee hours / Thursday morning, the moon sextiles Venus. So the moon conjoined Venus last week in Scorpio, and that was kind of but nice, but good. The moon sextiles Venus on Thursday, and it's the moon in detriment. Again, it's not the best, and it's Venus in detriment, so it's slightly better than the moon-Venus aspect from last week. And later in the day, the moon trines Uranus, so do something different, shake it up. But be careful, because Mercury is retrograde, so if you're going to be experimental, just know that it's an experiment, and you could blow something up in your garage, so to speak, and that could cause a whole series of crazy events that last through January. So maybe don't be experimental. But that's the energy. Maybe something will get shaken up. Oh, and the moon sextiles Neptune and conjoins Pluto in the wee hours of Thursday / Friday morning. So it might be, you might get into a little more trouble than you planned if you're up that late. And you might have a hard time waking up in the morning. Moon sextile Neptune is maybe an opportunity to sleep in. So for most of Friday and all day Saturday, the moon is in Aquarius. So kind of off axis from Mercury's retrograde stuff. You'll be able to see, looking back, that the beginning of this week really set up all the Mercury retrograde themes, potentially. And the moon in Aquarius on Friday and Saturday is maybe considering solutions, feeling detached, thinking about the new world we've entered into the past couple years. And the moon squares Jupiter on Friday night. So maybe you're having fun, but you want to have a night in, but it's fun anyway. And it's not really like warm and fuzzy. There's good food and comforts to be had, but you feel a sense that you belong somewhere else. And on Saturday, while the moon is squaring Venus, or after the moon squares Venus, which is more like detached loveliness, the moon in Aquarius, where it's not in detriment or fall or anything, but it's not juicy or comfortable. It's very alien, making a hard aspect with Venus in detriment. Whatever pleasures are on offer there are cold comfort. And it's a super low energy day, all day. The moon is squaring Neptune. It's making its closing square with Neptune. So you might realize that you've entangled yourself in the wrong thing, or you can't uphold the pace for right now anyway, or you committed to like a volume of work that you're not so sure about right now, or you've inadvertently deceived someone or some entity. Sometimes Neptune being deception, sometimes Neptune gets us into trouble because we don't realize that we're being disingenuous or being deceptive. But there's also on purpose deception. Or you could realize that you've been deceived by someone else. So deception, low energy, nebulousness, naturally blurry. Saturday, moon in Aquarius. It's very otherworldly, Aquarius and Pisces together. Otherworldly, confusing, messy. The Pisces part makes it messy. Aquarius by itself can be detached and rational, but with Pisces involved. With Pisces involved, there's idealism, and there's also idealism in Aquarius, but it's two different flavors. The delicious ice cream is too frozen to get it out of the container. That feeling, that vibe carries into Sunday. But in the middle of the day on Sunday, the moon moves into Pisces, which is much juicier and nicer, except the moon in Pisces these days slams into Saturn immediately, which can be gut-wrenching. Pisces is an emotional sign, so the restrictions that Saturn brings there can activate emotions in a really deep, dark, heavy way. Or if you've been, taking care of that part of your life, whatever the part of your life that Pisces is, maybe you get a cold sense of satisfaction at a sense of accomplishment or something along those lines. Because the moon does sextile Jupiter immediately after that, and it also sextiles Mercury, which is just stationed retrograde. So we're coming full circle. Remember to watch the Mercury retrograde video, which is the one before this one, to get a sense of the structure of the entire upcoming Mercury retrograde and to also get an understanding of Mercury retrogrades in general. And remember to pre-order the 2024 calendar, which looks like this, but is for 2024 instead of, this is the 2023 one. This is the special edition, by the way. The regular one is white with sans serif, black type. And remember, your Wi-Fi is a camera that can see through walls.